95% of solo learners quit before they even see progress, not because they aren't smart, but because they are learning the wrong way. In 2019, I started learning programming alone with no mentor, no roadmap, no bootcamp, not even a group. But then I've come out to create and launch my own successful 2 applications, that is Antify and FunUI. So trust me when I say I know exactly what you are going through. Look, it's not like you don't want to learn the programming or you cannot learn it. It's because you don't have the systems in place. You don't have the systems. The difference between those that become successful at something and those that don't become successful is that the successful people have the systems. They have the system and you don't have the systems. So now this video is not about me motivating you. No, I'm not going to motivate you or to give you just some guide. No, I want to give you the systems. I want to give you the exact systems. And trust me, I can bet that if you really follow through the systems and what I'm going to tell you in this video, you're going to see a dramatic shift in your productivity and how you learn any skill, whether it's programming or any skill you want to learn. But I'm focusing on programming. So let's get started. So let's start with the problem. I know a lot of you are learning alone, not because it's by choice. Maybe it can be your geographical location. Maybe the surrounding you are in, there aren't a lot of programmers like you or people that are into tech that you can always look up to or maybe share your problems with. And that is the hardest part. That was my problem. My problem was the geographical location, because there aren't a lot of people that are into programming where I am. And because of that, I became restricted. I cannot do the things I wanted to do because there was no one to simply talk to, no one to share my wins, no one to share my problems, no one to guide me. So it becomes very, very hard until I develop a system that helped me to follow through my plan. And that is exactly what I want for you. A system for you to simply follow, so that every day you know exactly what you have to do. And once you have a system, everything becomes very easy because you know exactly what you need to do. You don't just go around randomly picking any course or randomly doing anything you want. You have something to follow through, and that is what I want for you. So step number 1 of the system is to pick one direction and commit. So I will say that this is the most important step of all, picking one direction and trying to commit to it. Look, I've been in your shoes. I've tried a lot of things. You can name it, backend, e-commerce, what, I've tried all. And I didn't succeed when I was trying to learn all of them. I only succeeded when I picked one direction and I committed to that direction. So now, I want you to pick this direction. Not because it's the perfect direction, but because I think it is the best direction for you to just pick, and that is front end. Why? Look, when you want to learn only backend, maybe if you have a team, maybe you have people around you that are into front end, you can learn backend and try to complement their skills. But what if you are in a location where it's just only you are solo, which means only the backend cannot get you to your destination? That's where you need front end. So I always say this, try to learn front end, not just backend. If you have people around you, if you are in a maze of developers, you can always learn backend. But if you are learning solo, just learn front end. Why? Because front end is easier to learn, 1, and 2, if you are learning front end is a skill. While you are learning, you are doing, you are seeing, right? You just learn how to build a landing page, you just put it into practice, build a landing page, and then you see the landing page. But for backend, you need to be in an organization so that you learn how to manage servers and all that. And you are learning alone. You don't have the privilege of all that. So pick front end, just pick one skill, and that is front end, and try to learn it. And you can always learn how to even put backends like Firebase. You don't need to learn how to build scalable backends to build your application. I have 2 applications run. I have FunUI and I have Antify, and all of them are using Firebase as the backend, and they are running smoothly with less cost. So what I'm trying to say is pick one skill, and that skill is just front end for you. Just pick front end and try to commit to it. Don't try to learn a lot of things. And let's move on to the next step. Step number 2, always break everything you are learning into small digestible lessons. So big goals are inspiring, but they are also paralyzing. Trying to focus on the big goal cannot get you to the destination, but trying to make it smaller steps becomes much easier. So now let me give you this exercise. What if you are asked to master React or to master Next.js? Isn't that paralyzing? Isn't it feels impossible? But what if you are told to learn how to create your first Next.js application or just build your first component? Is it that simple? Look, the problem is we are focusing on the bigger goal. We are focusing on the bigger picture rather than trying to break it down into smaller steps so that you can always focus on the step. All that you see in an application or a software or a company is just a whole gigantic solution. That's what you see. It's a gigantic solution. But behind that solution are smaller steps that comes together to build that bigger solution. So for example, let's just take Google for example. It's a bigger organization, right? But if you break it down, they have units. They have thousands of units that comes together to build the whole Google. That is how you should always focus on when you are learning any skill. Don't focus on the big picture. Don't just pick a skill and try to master it all at once. It doesn't work. But instead, try to break it down into smaller steps, smaller achievable steps. And those are lessons. Just find time. Once you get your skill, break it down into smaller steps so that you have what you have to focus on every day. And it becomes easier once you have those steps. So don't focus on the big picture. Focus on the steps you need to take to get to that destination. So let's move on to the next step. Have you heard of the 3-hour sacred rule? So now here's the rule. Dedicate 3 hours to learning every day. Look, learning more than that will make what you are learning not fun. It will make it boring, and less than 3 hours will break your momentum. But 3 hours is a sweet spot for your brain to engage in learning and also enjoy what you are doing. So don't learn more than 3 hours a day and don't learn less than that. Just focus on 3 hours a day, and I trust you build any skill you want to learn. A lot of people burn out in what they are doing, not because they are not interested in what they are doing, but because they have spent a lot of time doing one thing and it becomes a mundane task. So that is what you want to look out for. Don't spend all your time doing one thing. No. Try to spend just 3 hours doing it instead of spending maybe 6 hours burning into code. Look, I've tried it. I've spent half of the day trying to learn code, and what it did is it just got me burnout. So don't do that. Just spend 3 hours a day rather than trying to burn all your time learning the skill. Next step, always build projects. Don't just go and learn programming tutorials. A lot of you just learn tutorials, and after those tutorials you go like, you don't know why it didn't stick. The reason is that you didn't build projects, and if you don't build projects, you don't know how to handle real solutions. So that is your problem. You don't build anything after learning the tutorial. That is all. You wonder why it didn't stick. It didn't stick because you didn't build anything. You didn't put it into practice. The real learning comes once you start to implement what you've learned from the tutorial. Here's my rule. For me, I don't spend a lot of time learning, but I spend a lot of time trying to solve problems. Once I pick any skill, all I do is just once I'm done learning, I don't even wait till I'm done with the course. Any lesson I'm done with, I start to implement that lesson. For example, if I learn a lesson, maybe functions, I try to implement it. I try to create an application using that lesson. Maybe how to use function to maybe get all of my data from the database or something like that. So I try to implement it. I don't just learn, I implement, I create projects. And that is something that propelled me to where I am today, because I've built a lot of projects. I have a lot of projects online. Why? Because any lesson or any course I'm just taking, once I'm learning, even in the process, I try to build projects along the way, because I've realized that is where the real learning comes from. So the real learning comes from when you solve problems, not just learning. When you solve problems, can you solve a problem? The course you are taking, can you solve a problem after that course or after that lesson? Can you solve a problem? That is the question you need to ask yourself. If you cannot solve any problem with that lesson, you didn't learn anything. So I'm giving you this task. Once you are done with any lesson, try to build a project around that lesson, and that is the fastest way for you to learn. So the next step is to protect your mental health with other hobbies. Look, trying to focus on only learning will make it boring. So try to fill it out with other hobbies. So for me, it is reading. I like to read. I don't read fiction. I like to read non-fiction books. So try to fill it out with other hobbies you like to do, instead of trying to burn all your time into programming. No, try to find other hobbies that complements the skill. A lot of you go like, you think learning is all about just burning all your time into it. No, it becomes very hard and you burn out. I can guarantee that you burn out if you are trying to only learn and not trying to put other hobbies into place. Try to introduce other hobbies into your learning. So while you are learning, you introduce other hobbies. So now let me tell you the thing about programming. Sometimes you are solving an issue. Sometimes you are solving an issue. You are on your computer, you are on your PC, and you are burning hours trying to solve that issue and to no avail. But then you just step outside of your computer or your working environment. You just step outside to get a fresh air or to just relax for a little bit, and boom, the solution comes into your mind. Why? Because when you were on your PC, all you were thinking was just problem. But when you step out of the problem, when you step out of your working environment, you start to think of solution. So don't always sit there, just try to blend it with other hobbies. It can be reading, it can be gaming, or there are a lot of hobbies out there. Just try to blend it with other hobbies, because once you step out of your working environment, you start to think of other solutions, other alternative ways to solve your issue. To put everything into practice, I have built Antify and Front-End Accelerator for you. So now Antify is unlike any other platform you've seen out there. It's unlike YouTube and any other platform. Let me give you a brief overview of how Antify works. Antify picks a course, breaks it down into smaller steps for you, gives you a community so that while you are learning, you have other people you can always talk with, other people you can always share your problems with. And also Antify tries to send you notifications every day for you to continue learning so that you don't burn out and leave. And there's also something I've introduced in Antify, and that is breaks. For every 25 minutes there's a break time for you, so that you just take a break, step out of your PC for 5 minutes and come back and start learning. And there's also streaks, so that you keep on learning, so that you wouldn't want to lose your streak for missing a day. And with all this, I've added Front-End Accelerator to Antify, and that is my course to teach you front-end, so that you learn how to build your own application right from scratch. I'm just taking it from the beginning, from the lowest point to the point where you can build your own application. And after learning it, I'll also teach you Firebase. It's a database. It's a database you can learn how to put in your application. Look, I've built Antify myself. I've built it from the ground up, from scratch, and I know exactly what you are going through. And I know a lot of you don't have the resources. I know exactly. For a lot of you, it's a fact. Especially a lot of people have been reaching out to me. They are from Nigeria. They don't have the resources because of their current economy. And because of that, Antify is free. But I've made the Front-End Accelerator course the lowest course. And I believe it's the lowest front-end course. It's the lowest and the best front-end course you can ever get out there. I'm bringing the price super low. Just something like $5. Just equivalent to $5 or $4. So that I want everybody to be able to access the course. And I already have people enroll in the course and they are doing better. So I'll leave a link to the course so that you just open and try to check it out. Just check the course out, because the best investment is investing in yourself and nothing else. So now let's talk about what kept me going. Look, learning programming is very hard, especially when you are alone. But what kept me going was the mindset. It wasn't anything else. It wasn't I was the smartest person. No, I wasn't the smartest person. In fact, I can even remember when I started to learn HTML and CSS, I wanted to put a background image. It took me over a week to do it. Over a week. And at that time, there wasn't ChatGPT and all that for you to just go and get a solution. It took me over a week for me to just do the CSS background. So I wasn't the smartest person. But what kept me going was the mindset. Was that I was intrigued by programming. I wanted to learn it. It was something I was passionate about. And then I always knew that at some point I will get to my destination. At some point, if you continue learning any skill, always know that at some point you get to your destination. Always have that mindset that at some point you get to your destination, and be consistent. Don't just follow through with a plan and at some point you leave it, go do something else. No, be consistent, because that's only the mindset that will get you through. Believing that you get to the destination and also being consistent in what you are doing. A lot of you just pick a course and maybe 2 or maybe 1 week you are done with the course, you just leave it. No, try to follow through with your plan and try to get it into action and try to finish what you've just started. Don't just pick a course or a project, halfway through you leave it. No, try to be consistent. So now let's talk about reality. Over my years in programming, I've met a lot of people that fail to learn programming mainly because they have set unrealistic expectations for themselves and they didn't follow through their plan. The guy goes into programming and wants to learn everything about front-end or back-end in the next month or in the next 2 months. It doesn't work that way. You have to be realistic. Look, all that you see in a skill is just one huge problem. And how do you solve that problem? By just following through to a plan, making sure you stick to a plan. Don't just go in 3 or maybe 2 months you want to be a master in it. It doesn't work that way. Give yourself years, and when I say years, maybe 3-4 years. Don't just give yourself months so that you just say that maybe in 3 or maybe in 1 month I'll be done, then I'll become a master in it. No, it doesn't work that way. You gotta be realistic. You got to set realistic goals and realistic expectations for yourself. Don't just set expectations that are not realistic. You cannot go into programming or a skill and want to master it in 1 month, or and a lot of you and some of you want to even master it in 2 weeks. No, look, it takes years to become a master in something. You just got to have the plan and follow through the plan to your destination. And I promise you, if you are realistic and you create realistic goals, you always see them through. I've given you the system, but you got to put it into action. Do you know the number of times the average person tries to do something new before they give up? The answer is less than 1. They don't even start. The average person don't even start. They don't even start at all. So you have to start. Whatever I've shared with you in this video, I want you to start practicing it. And I promise you, if you start practicing what I've just shared with you, you see a dramatic shift in your productivity. And I promise you that. Sometimes learning alone and working is not always the problem. So in the next video, I'm going to share with you a book that have completely changed my life. And I promise that book will change your life. The book will help you understand how the world works and how you can take advantage of the world to become successful in whatever you are doing. So make sure to check the next video because you wouldn't want to miss it. And always remember, every expert was once a beginner. And as always, let's build something great together, and I can't wait to see you in our next video.